I'd like to say good morning to everyone and thank you to Diane and Olga for making this happen. I'm very curious who's in my audience today because I'm going to gear my talk to the responses I get to the next couple questions. So be ready to put a little yes, like a little Y. You don't have to type the whole yes or a no in the chat box, okay? So my first question is, have you done yoga before? So any kind of yoga. We just put a Y. You can just put yes or a Y. Good. That's very good. No. Hey, wow. Oh, excellent. Okay. How many people have done Kundalini yoga? It's a specific kind of yoga. Good. Okay. How many people have known someone who have suffered themselves from a serious mental illness? Could be someone in your family, could be a good friend. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to talk today about Kundalini Yoga and mental health and how those two things can go together. So a little bit about my background, I think first with the mental health. When I was 23 years old, I have to push, I gotta do my timer, sorry. When I was 23 years old, I suffered from a very bad postpartum depression. So bad that I abandoned my children with their dad. And doing that was a horrible thing to do for my own heart, but I did not want to grow up to be like my mother. My mother suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and manic depression, and from the time I was small, I heard things and saw things that no small child should ever see, which really confused my mind. And by the time I was about 10, I had weird noises in my head. And I remember praying and praying for days to have this go away. And that actually went away. So I was very happy about that. So after leaving my children, and I got a job, but I was unable to keep the job because I was so depressed. I would have fired myself. So I was homeless then, which was a very interesting kind of existence in a way, because I have to say I was more comfortable being homeless with those kind people than I was living in my own home as a child. My home as a child was not comfortable. There was nothing comfortable about it. So that was kind of a nice experience. I met a lot of nice people, and they were all kind, and most of them believed in God. And I grew up in a Catholic church, but it was a very condemning Catholic church. All we ever really heard about was going to hell and how horrible of sinners we were. So even as a small child, we were sinners, and the whole parading around that they do pre-Easter with the Stations of the Cross in the Catholic Church. If you know anything about the Catholic Church, they do Stations of the Cross, and you go around and you watch Jesus be crucified, and at like 6 years old, really, and then we're told that he died for our sins. So I had this horrible kind of growing up with the Catholic Church and whether or not I was going to go to heaven or hell, and I certainly was probably going to go to hell. And by the time I was 15, I was definitely destined to hell because I was raped. And you have to be a virgin to go to heaven, or you have to be a virgin when you're married to be considered like pure enough to go to heaven. So, but that really messed with my mind. From the age of 15 until I was 23, my brain went wacko. By the time I was 40, I could jump way ahead, I was on 9 psychiatric drugs. And I had so many voices in my head telling me how horrible I was, telling me that I should kill myself, telling me all kinds of awful things. My brain was so busy telling me what to do, I couldn't even pay attention to a conversation. So I would be talking to someone, or someone would be talking to me, and I wouldn't hear a word they said. Sometimes I'd have to go, I'm sorry, I just don't know what you were talking about. And I'm standing right there. So I found yoga at 40, the really good yoga, I would say. I was doing like practice of yoga, hatha yoga, taking some yoga classes. I discovered I was very unflexible. I was a power lifter. Imagine that. How tough can you be, right? And I was a runner. I could easily run 6 miles, which means I could run away from anyone. So all of my body was a defense. And I found a yoga class, and I could get down to my knees. They wanted me to touch the floor. I couldn't touch the floor. I couldn't do a squat. Are you kidding? I could do I looked like I was sitting in a chair, but I certainly couldn't drop. So I did regular yoga for about 10 years to add to my body, really, right? My defense. And then I found Life Force Yoga by Amy Weintraub. And Amy Weintraub was the first person to give me kind of hope that I could change my brain, because my brain was offline. It was not okay. There was nothing good happening up there. And even if you were a nice person, I would think that you were thinking bad things about me. People who were talking over there, I would think that they were talking about me. If I met someone on the sidewalk, if I was going to pass someone on the sidewalk, I actually had to cross over. I had agoraphobia so bad, I was thanking God when the credit card came out, because now I could put gas in my car, because there were days I couldn't go in and pay. So yoga to me is just like the salvation for my brain. You can totally rewire your brain with yoga. There are so many things that you can do. But you need a royal yoga as far as I'm concerned. So Kundalini yoga is a royal yoga. A royal yoga is a yoga that includes all the 8 limbs of yoga. And the 8 limbs of yoga are breathing. I have notes. I'm going to just flip my page because I don't want to miss anything. I do get a little bit nervous doing this. But so we have our body postures that we use in yoga, so we can like bend, and this helps to get rid of toxins. Right? We bend forward. We get rid of a lot of toxins in the body. We do all kinds of acupressure things. So interesting. This changes our energy. The goal of yoga, by and far the biggest goal of yoga, if we go way back in history, was to sit and to meditate. So the big fancy word asana, which is the end of every Sanskrit body position, like Tadasana, they all end in asana. The word asana actually means to sit. So if we can sit quietly without all this horrible body energy, no anxiety, no depression, and clear our minds, then we can meditate. And when we can meditate, we can get close to God. Now there's a lovely thought from someone who grew up a Catholic, who, as a small child, I thought that little angels were great. They were actually my best friends, protected me from a lot of things. And I had a little bit of a relationship with God until I was raped, and then I just was out. So to be able to sit and communicate with God is just the most delightful thing, I have to tell you. But we have to be able to clear our bodies and our minds. So the energy of our body must be out of the way. We must be able to sit comfortably and not be uncomfortable in our bodies at all. It's almost like they don't exist. Right? And then the brain has to be totally clear. So another limb of yoga is the breath work. And I love to share this breath work. I think the last time I spoke, I shared this breath work, which is called snake breath. It's one of the easiest breaths in the world. And I would like you all to try it, because if we're not breathing, like if our bellies are not moving when we breathe, we're not really breathing. We're creating a lot of tension up here, and we're like sipping breath. And then we get tension back here, and then we go to massage therapists and go, oh, my neck is sore, here is sore, right here is sore. Everything is sore up here because we're breathing like this all day long when we should be breathing here. So if we do snake breath, our elbows will actually move out and it will expand your ribs. So if you put your hands on your ribs and you stack your teeth and then pretend you're a small child, because you want to make a snake sound. It's called sitali breath as well. It's like a fancy word. But you stack your teeth and you go, And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see my hands move out. Now we can learn to do that more quietly. So it's still working, right? And then you can learn to do it without stacking your teeth. So my ribs will still move without making any noise. Pranayama, it's a big word they use in yoga. They'll tell you it's breath work. It is breath work, but really it's energy work. When it boils down to the very end of it, we're working with our energy. We're trying to calm our energy. So we have to have not only body positions to get rid of toxins, then we have to have breath work. All of this is included in one class. Pratyahara, now there's a fancy word. Pratyahara is a total withdrawal of your senses. Imagine that. Somebody who suffered from PTSD. I had a lot of diagnosis, I gotta tell you. Some of them were pretty creepy. But in the end, I ended up with a good label stuck on me called PTSD. And I'll take that one because it's curable. But, so Pratyahara, back up. So if you have PTSD, there is no way you can relax. No way. You hear everything, you see everything, you can't even close your eyes. But when you get deep enough into yoga and you start to trust in the world and trust in your body, you can not only close your eyes, you can close off your senses. You can close off your senses so much so that when you meditate, you do not feel the air temperature around you. And I have done that before. In a 3-hour meditation, I came out of it because the alarm went off. And I was freezing, but I didn't know it prior to that. So when you're in meditation and your brain waves are like this, oh, how lovely is that compared to, all kinds of voices going on, or just worry all the time. People even in big offices, like office people who work all the time, their brains are very, very busy all the time. They can hardly sleep, right? So it's not just for people with mental illness, but it's for all people, because we need to be able to calm ourselves down, right? So we have our asana, our body work, we have our breath work, we have pratyahara. Just imagine that, if you could just cancel out the whole world around you. And then we get into this focus. And most of the time in Kundalini Yoga, the whole practice is done, all of it, with your eyes closed and your focus right here. And when we do that, we put just a little bit of pressure from our optic nerves onto our pituitary gland. And you can try it. Just close your eyes and look up a little bit, and you'll see it's a bit more relaxing, unless, of course, you have some kind of PTSD and you don't want to close your eyes, right? You can also look down at your chin, and that's a whole nother energy. And then there's another one that's at the top of your head. It's called the 10th gate. Try that one. Close your eyes and look straight up. That's an amazing one as well. So in Kundalini classes, we use they're called dristis, places where you put your eyes, so that your energy is different and the release of chemicals from your pituitary is different. When you get all that together, so now you're sitting comfortably, you're breathing, and eventually you don't breathe. Isn't that wild? We always think we need to breathe in yoga, but eventually in a deep yogic state, these people are not breathing. Probably seen maybe on Facebook or something, some guy from the Himalayas sitting there in the snow, like with a little groin cloth on. And his fingernails are like grown crazy, right? If they put a mirror under his nose, he's not breathing. It has to do with the air pressure around us. And it's like being in it's like an iron lung. I can't remember the word right now. I got a concussion a couple weeks ago, and I still have a little bit of weird stuff going on in my head. But I forget words. Anyway, it's a place they would put people. It's called an iron lung back in the old days, and it would breathe through your body. So they're breathing actually through their body somehow. And I've gotten into that state before where I'm not breathing. I don't know how long I wasn't breathing, but then I'm like, oh my God, I'm not breathing. which we jar ourselves out of these perfectly great meditative states by thinking we need to be breathing when meditating. We don't need to be breathing when meditating. As a matter of fact, let it go. See if you can let it go. If you're like, oh, I need to breathe, then you're back out again. So that is part of it. And then, so you get into this complete, it's called meditative absorption, dhyana, just totally meditating. And when you do that, it's so easy to just like leave your body and hang out with God. I call it my Heavenly Father. My Heavenly Father was awesome, or is awesome. Very friendly, very loving, very peaceful. I want to like spend an hour, just even 10 minutes, feeling complete love. When you feel like you're completely loved, even only 10 minutes, can you imagine like just soaking in it for an hour? We might not have enough time to do that. And I don't know. It's not a goal of mine to sit every day for 3 hours. Some people like to do that. I don't have that much time, but 10 minutes of complete and absolute love, I just can't pass it up. And then what if you can, and what if you really are hanging out with God, right? I think we are. When we're meditating, I believe that. So am I going to say to God, I'm sorry, I don't have time for you. I just don't have time today. I'm not gonna do any kind of yogic practice, and I'm not gonna sit down and meditate with you. I'm not gonna hang out with you today. Some days I do that, but I do talk to God in my head throughout the day, thanking God for strange things like great parking and beautiful day and a wonderful sunrise. So, all right. So that's the goal. Now, since I grew up a Catholic, I have lots of issues. And I heard a lot of the Old Testament as a kid. There's some, I think they're kind of awful stories in there, but they tell in a way that Jesus is coming. So if you believe in Jesus, there it is. It's like it's predicting that he's going to come. Okay. So I do have Bible verses in my book, because I have people in my family still who believe I'm like a devil worshiper. But the yogic text and the biblical text are so alike that I can't just not put it in there. And I want, like, these people who think that yoga is satanic to understand that it's not, right? So let me just give you a few examples. Oh, all right. You might have heard this before. It's, oh, look at that. I forgot the actual person who wrote it. I got the chapter and the verse number here for you. It's probably Matthew. Chapter 11, verse 28 through 30 says, "Come to me," I love this, "all who are weary." Isn't that nice? "Burdened, and I will give you rest." This is a lovely sentence. Who's going to give me rest when I was crazy and homeless and totally unloved? Someone's going to give me rest. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." So the word yoke in yoga is huge. And huge means to unite. And it means yoga. So if you read it like that, take my yoga or my practices. Jesus taught people how to meditate. It's a lot of it's in the Gnostic text, not agnostic. Agnostic is against, but there's such a thing as the Gnostic text. It's Gnostic, I think. And these were chapters from people like Mary Magdalene, Matthew, Mark, that were cut from the Bible. It talks about the light of the body. There's a lot of interesting things that have been cut from the Bible. And I believe in the Bible, and I believe in everything that Mary Magdalene had to say. I don't know why she's not in there. But anyway, it says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Oh my God. I just was like, really? For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Wow. Okay. I can learn from Jesus. Jesus led by example. He would get up early in the morning, even after a very busy day, and go out and meditate. So there's 2 verses that say that I have found. There's probably a lot more. I'm not the big Bible thumper. I just try to find things that are the same. So in yoga, they'll call it the ambrosial hours. Ambrosial hours are 2.5 hours before the sun rises. Get up, do some meditation, move your body. Well, actually, we take a cold shower first, which is something to get used to. You don't have to, but it's really good for you, and it gives you some great dopamine. So you get up in the ambrosial hours. It's beautiful. It's quiet. You can feel the presence of God. The stars are out there. You can watch the sunrise, right? So you get up early, you move your body, you start meditating. You can feel the sun beginning to rise. You can open your eyes after hanging out with God, and there's a present every day. Every day you get a beautiful sunrise. All right, so it says, Mark chapter 1, verse 35, and I didn't even know how to read these things when I first discovered the Bible. Very early in the morning, while it's still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Right? And then Luke 5:16, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. So he was leaving all those people behind to go have some alone time with his Father. And when people ask him, like, how should we pray? He said to do the Lord's Prayer, which is, Our Father who art in heaven. He doesn't say, pray Jesus' Father who's in heaven. He says, Our Father. This is all of our Father. It's everybody's. Not just mine. It's everybody's. So, and then there's another, I love this. So, it says in the Bible, but when you pray, go into your room and close the door. And pray to your Father who is unseen. So it's not your other one. It's not your earthly father. It's your heavenly Father. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Well, if we go back into the Greek word, many scholars used to think that Matthew wrote in Hebrew or Aramaic, but now they've all decided he actually wrote in Greek. So imagine translating something when you don't even know what language it was to begin with. But if we go to the Greek word for room, so it says, go into your room, right? Room is tamalon, which means an inner room or a secret chamber. So it's not like a room, it's an inner room. So inside yourself, go inside yourself. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. So it's the same as meditating. We go inside so that we can meditate. So, and then I love this one, and I love this because it's to me it's important because what version of the Bible you read, you get different words. I didn't really know this, but this one kind of made me angry because there's many things that the people that run the churches don't want us to know, and I hate to say it that way, but if everybody knew that we could hang out with God just on our own, by practicing what we've been taught by Jesus and other yogi people, right? If we all knew that, we wouldn't have to go in there. Well, going to church is nice. They should just say going to church is nice. Come on anyway. You can visit with God all week long if you want, but come to church for some fellowship. We're going to sing. We're going to make ourselves feel good, right? But this verse, this one's from the King James. Okay, it says, the light of the body is thy eye. Boom. Thy eye. Doesn't say your eyes. Thy eye. If therefore thy eye be single, it's very specific, right? Right here. Thy whole body will be full of light. And that's Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. Well, if we get rid of the idea that we should meditate, we really shouldn't go into our inner room, we could say, in the new book, the New International Version, we could say, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. What a clever change. To me, it's clever because it doesn't say one eye. And when you meditate, you look right here. And this is special to get those hormones from your pituitary moving. All those beautiful chemicals that you can get. And even if you just sit and look right here, comfortably, we're not like straining our eyes up there, comfortably looking here, then you can start to meditate. And it's here in the Bible. I love that. So a little bit on Kundalini yoga because it's so much different than regular. So in regular yoga, you've seen people on the TV, you know, they're doing like triangle pose. They do warrior 1, warrior 2. They've got all these things. I was a hatha yoga instructor for about 12 years prior to learning Kundalini. So hatha yoga, once we learn all the different positions, we creatively string them together in a way that will keep you, the person who's doing it with us, entertained enough in your brain so you can be quiet for a little bit. Because you have to pay attention. You have your foot here, this other foot is back here, it's turned this way, your arms come out this way, one the parallel to the ground. There's all kinds of things that we do. And then we move creatively to another position, and we go on, and we completely keep you absorbed in our movement, right? And you're moving your body. Kundalini yoga is not designed that way. It is designed to move energy up your spine. And, I forgot. There's actually some biblical verses about that, but not today. It's in the book. Okay, got to read the book. So Kundalini Yoga will design a set of exercises. They're written down. There are about 6,000 of them. Today we're doing one in class for the endocrine glands. For the adrenals. So if you're feeling kind of like you don't have energy, then you could do this Kriya, and you might do this specific Kriya for 40 days, and it will help to fix your adrenal glands. Okay? So, for example, let's say we just want to move energy up our spine. Okay? We might start off, first of all, if I was going to try to get some great energy, I would block my left nostril, and I would breathe through the right side. It's called right nostril breathing. When you use your right nostril, you engage your left side of your brain, which I'm totally backwards on my screen now. And the left side of your brain is your one with energy, and it's very analytical. So if you want to get some energy and you want to be very analytical, you want to be breathing out your right nostril. And this is so confusing. So you would block the left one, so the right one is working. So they would just do this, and we'd do this for like 3 minutes, and everything is timed. Right? Then the next exercise might be to do pelvic rotation, because now I'm moving energy at the base of my spine. Right? All right? And then the next exercise, we'd pause, and in between most exercises in Kundalini, not all of them, but most exercises, some of them are very energetic, we go right into long, deep breathing. So in between exercises, we'll do long, deep breathing. When we do that long, deep breathing, we train ourselves that whenever we have any kind of stress, it could be the traffic stress. When we train ourselves that we have stress, we go right into long, deep breathing. Every time I just love a red light because I get to do long, deep breathing. And I've got my husband doing it now too, because what's the point of, I'm not going to be there on time, right? No, long, deep breathing. All right, so we did our pelvic rotation. Now we might do one's called camel ride, and you move this part of your body right here. So we're moving energy up our spine. It's kind of like cat-cow, but it's seated. If you know cat-cow, spine comes forward, spine goes back. Spine comes forward, spine goes back. Right? And then we might do something like this. And we're using acupressure a lot in Kundalini Yoga. I have some of that in my book, but look at this one. If these are our energy fields, they're called meridians, and we point them down toward the heart. We've now taken the energy off of our hands and we've pointed it at the heart, and we stick our thumbs around the back. You keep your triceps parallel to the ground and you move here. And you might do this for 3 minutes, and you're breathing. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Once you finish that for maybe 3 minutes, and all of them are timed, you would stop for a moment, do some long deep breathing or not. It depends on the Kriya. And we might do some head rotation. Now we're moving up through the throat chakra. And then we go the other way. Now how do we get it out the crown of our head? I'm going to have to duck for this one. So there's a hand mudra used in Hatha Yoga. I got 30 seconds according to my clock. It's called Jupiter Mudra. It looks like this. Jupiter Mudra is used in something called Sakriya in Kundalini Yoga. If you take this position, put your hands in this position. So here's the church, here's the steeple, right? Remember that from a kid? Take that thing and point it away from you, and you'll feel how it draws negative energy off your body. You never want to do that to another person. Just, oops, I got to turn me off. I promise I'll be done in the next 30 seconds. Drop it here. So then they would take their arms over their head like this, and we're going to do, like it's called Satnam, means this is our truth. Truth is our name. And you suck your belly every single time, and you go Satnam, 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 Satnam. And then you do that for maybe 3 minutes. That affects your vagus nerve for sure, because every time you flex your stomach, you're snapping your vagus nerve. There's such a thing called a vagus nerve stimulator. If you're very super depressed, you can have one installed in your body. Or you can do breath of fire or Sakriya. Sakriya also should move your tailbone just a little bit, so your spinal fluid is refreshed up through the brain a lot faster than it would be in a normal life. So thank you. I hope that was good. I hope you learned something, and I will take questions. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to see if I could answer them, and if I can't, I'll get back to you, but thank you.
Preet, would you like to talk about your book and ask people to sign up?
Oh, yeah. So my book is called Miracle Healing, How I Found God Through Yoga, and I'm offering 20 free books. Should be coming out June, I would think. Could be July. And then after that, it's like $2.99 for the next people that sign up, okay? So the sooner you sign up, the better. And Olga's going to put that up for me, I believe. And you can also get a hold of me if you have any questions. You're like, oh, I didn't understand that at all. I'm happy to answer questions through the chat. And I've got to turn this off.
So Jean had asked the question, what type of yoga is called? I put it in the chat. It's called Kundalini Yoga.
I'm sorry, what type of yoga is what?
What type of yoga you were referring to?
Oh.
So I put it in
It's Kundalini Yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan. And a few years ago, there was some bad press about him. And this is what I have to say about that. Einstein was not the best family man. But we did not throw out the theory of relativity because of that. So the teachings are great. Perhaps the man wasn't so wonderful. But the Kundalini Yoga that he taught can change you so quickly. It's like a rocket ship to rewire your brain. Did I get that one? I hope.
Okay, I think iPhone is Jean. She said, I would love to have your books. The link is in the chat. And the replays are going to have the link to all of the free offers. Okay.
How do you spell a couple of those words? Like, Pratyahara. Okay, Pratyahara is P-R-A, I won't spell it right, Pratyahara. And I'll put it in here.